For people following along, I suppose that so the ESG or environmental, social, and governance parts, they're screens that you can use within an ethical or a sustainable portfolio. Is that right?
That's one way of thinking about it. Going back to this concept of screening, if we determine that we're not going to invest in any thermal coal or tobacco or alcohol or so on and so forth, it's reasonably easy to identify those companies that operating in those sectors, and we simply don't bother looking at those companies and we don't invest in them. That's the simplest form, the simplest way to reflect our values. Now, a lot of sustainable products do not have negative screens, for instance, because the product would rather undertake the deep dive research around the environmental, social, or governance issues around every stock. I don't think you'll find many so-called responsible or sustainable portfolios that hold thermal coal, because that clearly suggests that the manager's values are completely out of kilter with the majority of the people on the planet. But you don't need to have that formal sort of negative screen in place in product for it to be sustainable. What you do sometimes find is the opposite of this. It's called a positive screen, whereby a fund will explicitly only invest in certain sectors or themes. So, for instance, a renewable energy fund, for instance, that will only invest in explicit renewable energy or related businesses. They might argue they operate a positive screen in that sense, because that screen determines their universe is only certain companies. But most mainstream product will term this as ESG integration. So it's as I explained, integrating the consideration of the identification and consideration of material, environmental, social, and governance issues into your investment process. And the reality is, the biggest test of authenticity is the type of companies that a consumer might find in those. So, if I'm sat there claiming to integrate this great, deep understanding of environmental and social issues into my portfolio, and somebody looks at the portfolio and sees that I'm holding, a tobacco company and a coal company, I'm going to look pretty stupid. So this comes back to an obvious question that you should ask of me is to, how does the consumer judge that I actually practice what I preach as a fund manager who claims to be responsible or